if it's national, that we want to see that if this proposal is directly linked to the national strategy, and of course, if it's a regional, if it's, again, as I said before, but if it's the fully aligned with the regional strategy. If it's so, that I think we do have another pocket, no? That's on top of the sovereign window, non-sovereign window, and I know we also have the regional window. So we would love to support this type. So first one is a strategy point. And then secondly, if there's we still want to see that some at minimum level of the financing plan. If it's okay, that's still a public sector business, but we still want to see that what type of the contribution or the commitment from the government at the minimum level we want to see. We don't want to see that something government just let the private sector do everything. That is never fly. So we want to see, and also we would love to give guidance to the government on that. And then lastly, again, as I mentioned before, but the capacity, implementation capacity of our counterpart. We want to see that the minimum level of the capacity for that. But in the meantime, assuming that that this is the type of the new type of the activity or the project. So we also learning, but we are the financier. So by working with, let's say, ICAO, and then we would love to provide technical assistance from the capacity building, how to structure and how to develop both technical and then financing, structuring and everything. And then, as a matter of the fact, I think we had the meeting among ourselves this morning. But I mentioned that we already advanced a little bit on the SAF, the production feasibility study here in Africa. And, so yes, most of them, we can say that some the final goal. But again, we are not just looking at the ready-made the financing project, but we would love to start supporting at early stage. So I think this type of project, I don't know which project is this, but okay, no, we would love to support.
Thank you, Marco, for showing interest for this project, and I'm sure the project sponsors appreciate as well. I'll invite Mingitsu for the next question. From your experience, what are the most frequent deal blockers in aviation projects? For example, sovereign guarantees, procurement structures, contractor selection, forex risk, revenue uncertainty?
Thank you. I alluded to procurement structure and contract selection earlier on. Just to start, especially in our region, many of our African countries, they face the World Bank, IMF restriction to provide guarantee. Usually government guarantees are becoming less and less. They would rather go to concessional funding. For that reason, TDB, for example, our bank, we try to identify a parastatal that has its own balance sheet, that is strong, that can stand on its own, and act as the implementing agency as well as a borrower. In that case, TDB can borrow and then on-lend it to that parastatal. But the challenge is with many of our member countries is providing government guarantee because of the sustainable lending restriction. The other one is obviously it is the contract. The contractor selection is one of the very critical ones. They, especially aviation deals, they require heavy assessment analysis, and going out to the market with a selection requirements becomes very, very cumbersome for some countries. That is a challenge, a challenge in a sense that they may not be able to provide a contract that is well accepted by for example, the OECD bribery and corruption requirements? Does it meet that kind of requirement? And the other thing is, even their local requirements sometimes become challenging. I don't know if you have followed, some news. Even their own local news outlets challenge the way some aviation or any government deals are offered. That is a challenge for ECA finance. Usually they would rather stay away from such controversial kind of transactions unless there is a clear-cut selection. The other thing is, obviously, because if they pick one sovereign, at the end of the day, it is by the way, ECAs are sovereign-sponsored. They are government agencies. They have to be sure that there is something. At the end of the day, the sovereign can really pay back in case of any crisis. Is it something that is dependable? They have to make sure that is clearly stated. For example, the forex restriction. Is there any externalization issues in that specific country? What is the law and what is the practice? Those are the things they need to be very clear about. And sometimes, they even give their own list of countries in which they don't want to deal any kind of business because of prior experience, the bad experience they might have had. Those are the main challenges: the contract issue, procurement issue, forex issue, as well as revenue uncertainty is also one of the challenges, because in aviation they have to be very careful as to how they manage to get the business for that airport construction or infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mingitsu. So you've actually described some major challenges that project sponsors and states have to overcome: the issue of sovereign guarantees, and that is imposing on us to be innovative in the way we finance projects, and clearly to add more capital market resources to project financing, especially in our region. Meanwhile, we can still be positive and look at some fast wins. So I'll turn to Olivier. If you were to advise a government today, what would you suggest as 2 or 3 practical actions that could improve project bankability?
I think the first thing would be to present the project as a team. So bring your stakeholders, the final beneficiaries, thinking about the SAF project, as one team. And try to get some commitment from their end in terms of use. I know the world is uncertain, but the less alone the government is, the stronger the project. So very important to present it as a team project. And then it goes with this, is the governance of this project. Show how it will be discussed, how it will be developed, with which type of support. Very important that you demonstrate strength and capability to mobilize resources, expertise that you don't have. So for me, that will be the two things. Maybe last one is to give clarity on your national energy policy as well. How can you force the use of SAF at a certain moment? So then it will secure the lenders that they will recover their investment.
Thank you very much, Olivier. Christopher, coming back to you, we alluded to those small ticket projects, and I'm sure if we look in the public, they'll definitely, if you were to actually list projects, you would definitely go with a full bucket of projects. So many states actually need those relatively small but high impact investments in different areas. What financing approaches or instruments work best for these types of projects, especially in lower capacity states? Grants, sovereign loans, result-based financing, blended finance, like what instruments can the World Bank offer for those small projects?
Well, we can offer grants, but again under a larger umbrella. So the the way the bank looks at projects is on an outcome basis, really related to the development impact. So it's part of it's identifying the metrics for success. And this type of activity, absolutely, you fit it in there because why? It's about jobs, it's about people, and so you can do this kind of capacity development as a component, but a results-based approach would be great because you could be looking at ways to frame the outcome targets as a development impact. And I think that's where the bank, standalone projects are interesting, but really what is transformational and how you measure that transformation in a results framework is the way the bank really quantifies its efforts with clients.
Thank you, Christopher. Very clear, possible, but with clear development impact, result-based project and transformational. So Felicity, now focusing on the SAF project, when ABRD evaluates such a project, what climate or sustainability impact evidence do you need to justify support?
So thank you for the question. We like the look of Project 3. Just want to back up what was said about mandates. One of the things we look for SAF projects is what is the environmental context in which we're operating. So seeing governments deliver mandates or going beyond like voluntary contributions is very important. But directly to your question, the EBRD invests in projects, as already said, that are Paris aligned, that also contribute to adaptation. It's not just GHG emission reductions, as well as transition impact. Now, Paris aligned means that you are either contributing or not obstructing a country's transition to compliance with Paris goals of 2 degrees, not exceeding 2 degrees climate change above 1998 industrial levels. That is the agreement that most countries of the world have signed up to. So we want to make sure that all our projects are like that. They either contribute and at least do not obstruct in terms of locked-in assets with high carbon emissions. That's the first. The second is we also look clearly at energy efficiency gains, so GHG emissions assessments we require, and we are very keen to see the quantifiable GHG reductions, so that's primarily looking for renewable energy within operations or investing where you can change to address 1 and 2 emissions, scopes 1 and 2. We do see a little problem emerging as people try to respond to our requests on mitigation, which is an overclaiming, particularly for airport projects. So we see that some project developers or countries come with projects and claim that they are reducing emissions scope 3 from predictions about airports using SAF. Now that's okay if it's aligned with the mandate that Olivia alluded to, but it's not really okay if it's just sort of assumptions about statistics of air use. So a good example for us was in the Sofia bond, which we issued for their airport, where things were ring-fenced for refurbishment and where the claims for scope 3 were very, very clearly aligned with their EU ETS and EU refuel project. So just in adaptation, there's one thing is, yes, talk about what you can do, but don't overclaim. Don't claim to be more than you do, because that is equally damaging. It's not a promise everything and deliver nothing. Banks and financial institutions go through these things very carefully. So that's on reductions. On energy efficiency, we also look for standards like BREEAM and LEED. So if there are certification schemes, by all means, use them. This helps. And finally, we do see increased interest as we move on and climate change is occurring to how are projects managing that risk. We do see it as a risk and we assess it closely. So that means flooding risks, that means looking at heat, that means looking at changing weather. So when you submit these projects, the more that you can do in your risk analysis around adaptation measures, the easier it is for us to invest. So it's these 4: GHG assessment, Paris alignment, mitigation and adaptation.
Thank you very much, Felicity. Maybe coming back to this project and the project stage, actually, I think the project is still at a pre-feasibility stage. And we also discussed about the different financing instruments that can be deployed by various banks. In a case like this one, at which stage of project preparation cycle do you think grants or concessional finance add the most value? Is it at feasibility study stage? Is it for the ESIA, environmental and social impact assessment, transaction advisory, viability gap funding for PPPs, and especially, of course, in the context of lower capacity states?
The EBRD is sort of quite close to commercial banks, so we're quite hard on that. So we look for grants to be used for realistic CapEx, OpEx, delivery, so early stage feasibility, fundamentally. So that means identifying sort of efficiency gains, doing your environmental impact studies and assessments and effective due diligence, ensuring clear governance and compliance with laws, so that's legal assessment and alignment, procurement policies, etc. And in countries where there is low capacity, again, technical advisory. So we do recognize the need for advisory services, and we are able to draw in grants or technical advisory, capacity build, where it's very clearly aligned with project transactions. So that kind of brings me to a comment on 4, which is we wouldn't do it unless we could see a very clear line of sight to a commercial transaction. That's how we see what I would say is fundamentally a capacity building project. And that's because of our unique mandate, which is very much focused on the private sector. So this sort of, it's quite a difference to my World Bank colleague and African development colleague. We can't invest just for the good of people. We're investing for the good of the market. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Thank you very much, Felicity. You've actually again highlighted the differences in the mandates between the different financial institutions. So we have to be cognizant of that when applying for funding by any of these institutions. What's striking here is the contrast, I would say. One project, the SAF project struggles because it's complex and high risk. The other project, because it's essential, but not commercially viable. And in both cases, the takeaway is the same. Projects don't fail because of lack of interest. They fail because the structure doesn't match the financing reality. So we've exhausted the questions on the projects. And so now we have these 4 very different realities, these 4 projects. So let's step back a bit. And I'd like to turn to you all for a quick round of rapid-fire insights, focused, practical, and to the point. So I'll start with Marco for a change. What practical mechanisms could help reduce transaction costs for smaller or lower capacity states in preparing aviation projects for financing? In particular, how could ICAO actually work with development finance institutions and partners to support this? Typically through standard templates, we spoke about templates this morning, pooled technical assistance, or programmatic approaches. So Marco, if you could take this first.
Thank you, Romain. Let me give a different aspect. For the practical mechanism, the first standardization is important. So, and also thinking of the partnerships, ICAO. So we would love to develop the ICAO or the FDB or all other MDB colleagues aligned template for the maybe different level of activity, project preparation, structuring, the list sharing mechanisms, and ESG compliance, etc. So I think in order to make it more like a standardized activity, we can working with ICAOs from the technical input. And we, as a financing institution, we can provide the financing support for that. That's one. Standardization is a one. Maybe, well, the Romains from my team in the past. So we already have a lot of discussion between ICAO and FDB. for Africa. So we could potentially develop the joint the technical assistance facility. We have a very good complementary relationship, I believe. While ICAO provide technical assistance and global standard to the Africa, while FDB can provide the financing support, funding support, and also the reaching out of the local the connection that definitely we would love to support. So we could consider something a joint the facility, TA facility between us. With regard to the programmatic approach, that is I really want to emphasize that we actually, maybe some of you are already aware, but in December last year, we as FDB, we launched the very innovative program in aviation, really focused on aviation. It's called the IATP, Integrated Aviation Transformation Program for Africa. We really want to address all the structural issue here in Africa. Of course, we are the financing institution. Of course, we are proud of the leading infrastructure bank in Africa. But in the meantime, we also pay a lot of attention to the the financing activity. And then this IATP is actually for that. We do have the 3 pillars. The pillar 1 is the enable environment. We cover all the sustainability, safety, security, the governance. Also, most importantly, capacity building that many people mentioned even this session. So we really focus on the pillar 1 as enable the environment development support. And then the second pillar 2 is infrastructure. Of course, we as the infrastructure bank, we used to do of course, the infrastructure development is still the big the part of our financing activity. But in the past, we only focus on a little bit exaggeration, but we pretty much focus on airport development. And even this year, we have the 5 or 6 big airport project in line. As I mentioned, the largest one is the Bishop Airport International. This is a $12 billion project. Definitely, we provide big money from bank account. But in the meantime, with our, the credible status, with the easily that we can leverage the other financing institution, the support. So they're very confident that we can leverage, our capacity to mobilize $12 billion. So we have a lineup of different, but the airport is just one of the ecosystem of the aviation. So now we are looking at all the full the value chain of the aviation, the infrastructure, such as a cargo terminal, MRO, even a SAF refinery. We are very keen to make it happen, etc. And even the airport city. We are already working on a different airport city already, but the airport city is also the very another revenue source for the airport business, and also the connection between the airport and then the cities. We already financed the Terre, the way in Dakar, and we already financed it, but we want to expand more and more the project like that. So whole ecosystem of the aviation infrastructure is a big part of our IATP. That's the pillar 2. And then lastly, probably more important is the aircraft the financing. We've been, again, together with Romain, but we've been already did some detailed study of the leasing platform development, and which completed last year. And we are now moving to the financing stage. And we have a different option of the financing, but we are halfly committed to different structure. One of them is in the leasing platform is we come in back financier by providing our guarantee to the regional or the global leasing company, so that they can provide more affordable the leasing to the African airlines. That is very much needed, and so we have a long list of the client for that. And then the second one is a more aggressive one, which is we come in as a sponsor of the leasing platform or the company, what we can call it. But we already discussing with the different partners to set up the SPV or the leasing company or the leasing platform. So we put an equity into it. So we are, because of regulation, we cannot own the aircraft by ourselves as a lessor, but by setting the SPV, then so that we can provide our financial contribution to it, and then working with the implementing partner who can manage the aircraft. So that is also for the African airlines to have better access to the aircraft. And the market, as you know, that if you want to have a new aircraft, it takes 5-7 years. So that is a conventional way of thinking. But now we are in the process of revising our aviation framework for us to be able to support the secondary aircraft, and then there are different categories, but we are in the process. We are going to the board to change our aviation policy. So, and also the lastly, more important is the financing pool. We already are working since December. We've been doing a different, the project by project activity, but now as a programmatic approach, we are now the kind of integrated approach, collecting all the pillar 1, 2, 3 project in the same box, and then we need more financing. Our AFDB's capacity is limited. So we already have. I just spoke with my team member, and we counted. We already have more than 20 billion, the project to be financed. So we really need, our financing, the AFDB's bank account is just not enough. So we really want to go out. DFI collaboration is, of course, a conventional type of the platform, but we are already discussing the first ECA. We are having the program, the ECA program. And also the biggest one is going to be, we are going to institutional investors. Both, the sukuk financing and other, the samurai or the kangaroo or the bond. So we already know, so we are very much now focusing on the aviation space to work. And then ICAO is a very much a good partner to work with.
Thank you very much, Marco, for this enthusiasm on the aviation avenue. And so clearly, avenue for collaboration with ICAO, but also with other DFIs. So this is to be expanded. So I'll move to Mengitsu. So in brief, the question is how to reduce transaction costs, and how ICAO could actually work with players like yourself in this area.
Yeah, the first thing is they have to, local governments, they have to reduce the internal coordination issues. The implementing agency sometimes approaches on its own some financiers, while it is the Ministry of Ministry of Finance that is borrowing. And there could be some disconnect between the two in some countries. It's better that both of them have that local coordination right, and then approach jointly the right financier and do their proper contract review, and all the procurement issues be done like that. And the other thing is, this is, financiers, we want to have a technical consultant separately, but if governments have access to ICAO, ICAO can guide them as to what is required for an airport, and those kind of technical issues already pre-cleaned, and then the moment they go to financiers, those things are already done, and their job will be very easy for them to sail through the financing requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. So clearly positioning ICAO as a technical advisor on the governance side before approaching financiers. So Felicity, please, from your perspective, so how can we reduce transaction costs, and how can ICAO actually support your initiatives, especially in lower capacity states?
Yeah, so I think for us it's very similar. I'm going to echo a bit what's already been said. One of the biggest gaps is this gap between feasibility, the project idea, and then feasibility, and then bankability. So there's this sort of gap. So templates have been mentioned, programmatic approaches, when to use a regional approach, what makes a good regional approach work. So we saw Project 2, which could be a really good regional approach, but needs a lot of work. So this sort of taking a project and identifying what would be required to make it bankable, how to create a programmatic story, and then providing that technical advice through maybe understanding the differences across DFBs to draw in the right finance for the right project. We talked about it this morning. So yes to templates, but also understanding that those templates should be tailored to project types. I don't think we're going to get one template for all projects for all regions. So a little bit more thinking on what that template might look like and how to draw in the information. And I think really understanding, I think events like this are really great. You challenged me to say, you said try and use really simple language to convey the financial messages. We have our own language as financiers. This goes a long way. So again, I think ICAO is a convener and true to your message of not leaving any country behind, to make sure whilst financiers will clearly be interested in countries that are more advanced, to make sure that as a network, that knowledge is constantly relayed and replayed so that the pipeline, which you mentioned at the start, can build because we have the capital. There is private sector investment interest in this sector, particularly in areas where we can move to sustainable aviation fuel. So getting this message across, so it's three things. It's the templates, it's the programmatic approach and the bigger narrative, and finally it's really getting the narrative right where scale matters and where, in our view, green can drive financial viability and financial viability can drive green results. So we're very keen on that approach. Really building sustainable, resilient economies is what we're about.
Okay. Thank you very much, Felicity. So I'll now move to Christopher. So again, cutting transaction costs and how can ICAO and the World Bank better work together in achieving those financial, covering those financial gaps.
So on the transaction costs, I think what I would encourage, particularly for the bank, and I'll kind of echo Marco's comments a little bit, the programmatic approach, right? That we are one among many financiers, but having, and this isn't going to reduce the transaction cost, but what you need to see is the big picture and the long-term vision around the whole of sector, and that where then each I think financier brings value, right? And so the bank's value comes in on the policy and regulation side, I believe, strongly, on the safety and security side, on the public goods side. So we have, of course, our other partners at IFC and MIGA. How do we reduce the transactions? Make sure the enabling environment is in place early on,
the region,
and
how those
that will
may
at least accelerate those transactions if they become,
Thank you very much
if they're really
at the end
viable.
of the session,
on the partnerships piece, you know, I've been trying to work with the ICAO partnerships team specifically on the bank now has a new UN standard form of agreement with multiple UN agencies for bank finance projects to bring on board UN agencies directly, and in the space of air transport, I think
global safety
where
enhancement initiatives.
I'm very hopeful to get this across the line as one of the agencies that can participate. But I know we have avenues to do this now, but basically what it's allowed us to do is directly finance contracts where ICAO brings specific value add to clients, and where countries have a bank project that involves either multimodalism or air transport specifically, we can leverage that partnership to make sure that the clients have what they need and bring
as many of
ICAO's
you
value
know,
to the program.
EASA is made by 27 member states of the European Union.
the
plus
interest
4
in
EFTA
those areas where
states,
the
so
World Bank
this
has
is
interest, and I could see the
31
Secretary
member
General showing
states,
also
not as big
much
as ICAO,
interest
but we are
in
trying
what
to
we're
bring
saying,
this
so we're
regional
very
approach
positive
to
and
safety
optimistic
management, identification of
about
risks,
this. So
and
Olivier,
mitigation
not,
of
without being a
risks.
financier,
And of course,
if
it
you
is
could just give us
difficult
quickly
tasks because there
your
are,
perspective
one
on
thing is
how
the
you see,
regulations, which
you know,
are
what
standard
could cut
across
transaction
all the
costs,
member
and also
states,
how you would see
but the
ICAO
implementation of the
supporting
regulations
financial
sometimes
institutions
are
or
not done
governments
exactly
to
the same in each
accelerating
member
access
state.
to financing.
And this is due to the
So
size, is due
pretty
to
much
the
in line with what was said,
capabilities, is due to the
transaction
capacity
costs
as
are made
well
of costly due
CAs
diligences,
that
multiple
don't
due
have enough
diligences,
resources,
transaction
or the
advisory
size of their
services that the
industry as
company I'm
well, that
working with
requires
is providing.
more or
So
less
I'm happy that the more
capacity
complex the
to
projects are,
accommodate the other side.
the more I work.
So at IASA, we've been
But I
for
would say
quite a long
the
time
two
trying
things
to figure
that
out how
ICAO
to
could support
standardize the approach of the
is
implementation of
the
the
development
regulations.
of project
And the main things
management
that we do,
resources
understanding the
and skills
challenges,
in aviation.
are
Project management
basically
is
provide
something in
proportionate
itself, but in aviation
regulations
it's
that are
specific because of the multiple stakeholders we have to involve, and particularly airlines. Too many projects that we've been discussed are sometimes disconnected from the real airline strategy.
and then apply a proportional
So
approach to
the way to
mitigation.
develop project
This
management
means that then,
has to be
even if you have
permanent and
limited
ongoing. So
resources,
establishing
we can put the resources
project
where
management
it
resources
matters most.
within
So this
the sector
proportional
is
and
absolutely
risk-based
key for me.
approach to
The second element
is helping
is
to bring all the countries
supporting
together.
the development
Other things that we do
of
as well
solid
is
civil aviation
oversight
strategic
that is
plans
task-orientated.
and associated master
We
plans.
do a system-orientated
It gives
oversight.
visibility, it gives
This means that we
certainty
bring
to
different
investors, to
disciplines
lenders.
together, and we,
When I say solid, it's not something done by a
standardized
consultant
way
with the
to
management of the
oversee
civil
an
aviation authority,
organization
but
that has
something more in
different
depth,
functions,
with
like
all stakeholders
maintenance,
involved,
design,
with
production,
their inputs
and so on
properly
and so forth. And now that we
integrated.
have incorporated,
And this
for
again,
example, Part IS,
so and
that
I'm happy to
address
see that
cybersecurity
Nigeria,
risks, within
with
as
the
well a
support of
team
ICAO,
that comprises all
released
those capabilities,
its
so we
new
can
civil
assess an
aviation
organization
strategic
as a
plan
system, not
today.
a domain. Other things
But
that we
this
do
has
as
to
well
be a
is
lively document, it has
transparent
to be
and very
reconsidered
inclusive rulemaking.
frequently.
So our rulemaking
The
process
environment is changing, and
engages
so
with all the different
project
stakeholders,
management and
all the member
strategic
states,
plan
but as well
are, for me,
industry.
two
So we have
elements on
collaborative
which the
groups
support is
at technical level, but as
important
well at
and will
more
save
strategic level,
energy when
through the
time will
hub and
come
the
to
sub
develop
that are the
specific
member
projects, because
states
things
and the
will be
industry
ready
equivalent
to be discussed.
where we share
Thank you
all
very
the
much,
rulemaking
Olivier.
plan
This is
for the
well
year
taken
and the
on board,
years to come,
especially
and
by
we
colleagues
engage
from CVI.
trying to gather all the views from all the
So
stakeholders.
I want to thank
This
you.
means that when we
So
come
we've
up with a
tested
new
these
regulation, there is
projects
a
from
very
every
good
angle.
awareness of what is coming,
So now let's
and
make it
therefore
real.
how the implementation
So
is
I'll
going to
ask
be.
each of you
We spend
briefly
as well
respond
quite a
to
lot
this
of time
question.
in producing
If you had
guidance
to invest
material
today,
to provide a
which project
harmonized
gets
way
your
to
money,
implement these
of course,
regulations.
subject to some
And then we have
additional
something that is called the standardization
investment maybe
process,
to take it to the
where
feasibility.
we
So which project and
audit
why?
the member
So
states
we'll start with you,
to make
Christopher.
sure that the
We've
implementation of the
seen
regulations
4
are
projects today.
done in a harmonized way, but as well if we identify any deficiencies to support the member states.
It's a tough question.
With implementation
The
and
first
oversight.
project,
So we
as a
make sure
one-bank
that
group,
the whole European system
we could contribute there.
hopefully has a
And
harmonized
it's a big
approach to
transformational
oversight.
project,
It's
if
not
all of the
easy,
fundamentals
and of course
are
we
in
keep
place.
working on it. We keep understanding
So
best
Felicity?
practices from some member states and sharing given with our all
current
the rest.
strategy, we
So
would be
basically,
very
we
interested
don't
in
leave
Project
anybody
3,
behind, aligned with
despite the
principles
complexity
of
and the lack of
ICAO,
an
no country
off-taker
left
and
behind.
problems with the ESIA.
Finally, we have a very strong
are
process that we
able
will
to unlock.
discuss a little bit later
Excellent, very
for
clear.
safety risk
Marco?
management. That is underpinned by 2 very good tools.
Yeah, we want to do all, but yeah, maybe number 3,
which is a big data platform
it's a
that
type
allow
of,
us
the climate-oriented new project, and which still looking for a lot of the support. So we'd love to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Mengitsu?
I like project 1 and 3, but because of EAA environmental issues and the size, I prefer project 3.
Project 3 seems to get a lot of traction. And Olivier, from your perspective, which of the projects?
Yes, first I have no money to lend. Important. I would say project 2, because for me it's the most at reach. And you might find ways not to spend any capex and to turn it into operating costs. So, and it's a very transformational project as well. So I would go for project 2.
Thank you very much. So we can clearly see that the the LTAG actually is attracting a lot of interest from the different financiers, but also infrastructure development as highlighted by Christopher. Do we still have time to invite questions from the public? Yes. Okay. So this has been a very rich discussion. So now let's bring the public into the conversation. So the floor is open for questions, reactions, or even challenges for our investors today. So I see none. I guess we're getting towards the end of the day. Yeah, people are tired. So I'd like to thank you, panelists and investors. So what today's discussion has shown is that clearly financing is not the main constraint. It's more the structure of the projects. But again, there are means to take projects, ideas, from the concept stage to the bankability stage through the various steps. So the real challenge is about how projects are structured, how risks are allocated, how revenues are defined, how institutions are prepared to deliver, how compliance is demonstrated with environmental and social requirements. So across all four cases, the message is consistent. Good ideas are not enough. Projects need to be prepared in a way that aligns with financing realities. If we can close that gap, then the capital is just behind the door. Thank you very much.
Also from my side, very warm thanks to this amazing panel of experts for a truly meaty and substantive and very interesting discussion from all of you. And thank you to Romain Etoko for that fantastic facilitation.
Thank you.
So let us give them a warmer round of applause. Thank you.